My husband, Jared, slammed a stack of photos onto the oak table of the deserted coffee shop, his movements lacking even a hint of hesitation for a man currently tearing his family apart. He slid them toward me with cold confidence, his eyes, which once looked at me with tenderness, now hollow pits filled with calculation. In those photos, I looked pathetic, slumped over my desk surrounded by empty liquor bottles, caught in a heated argument with a stranger on the street, and even captured leaving the house at 2 a.m. with a dazed expression. The photos had been meticulously cropped and edited with sophisticated angles to transform me, a wife exhausted from overworking, into an alcoholic with an unstable psyche. "Sign the divorce papers and waive your custody rights, Alice," Jared said, his voice as flat as a frozen lake. "I've already filed with the court. With this mountain of evidence regarding your child neglect and unhealthy lifestyle, you don't stand a chance. If you're smart, you'll sign over the entire apartment and 50% of your shares in the financial consulting firm. In exchange, I'll allow you supervised visitation. Once a month." I looked at Jared, then at the man sitting beside him, a divorce attorney nicknamed the Suburban Shark. They thought they had me cornered. They thought a quiet accountant who spent her days buried in balance sheets and tax returns would easily crumble under the fear of losing her children. "Jared, we've been together for 7 years," I said, my voice low and raspy, intentionally letting a tremor slip through to play the part of someone backed into a corner. "I supported you when you were unemployed. I used my savings to pay off your gambling debts. How could you use our children to blackmail me?" "It's not blackmail, it's protecting the children," my mother-in-law Martha suddenly chimed in from the next table, stepping forward with a look of disgust. "A child cannot grow up with a mother who only cares about numbers and leads such a sick lifestyle. Jared needs those assets to build a better future for my grandchildren. You should be grateful we aren't throwing you in jail for child abandonment." I lowered my head, my hand gripping my handbag which held my old laptop, my livelihood and my only weapon. They had no idea that while they were busy hiring private investigators to stage photos, I had spent the last 6 months doing what I do best, auditing the cash flow. I had discovered that Jared wasn't just having an affair. He was using my consulting firm's name to set up shell companies to launder money for a massive illegal sports betting ring. To a veteran accountant, numbers never lie. Every cent he took from me to buy gifts for his mistress, every debt he magically moved through the company books, all of it left a digital footprint that I had carefully collected and encrypted. "Do you really think these photos carry more weight than the truth, Jared?" I asked, my eyes still fixed on the divorce papers. "The truth is whatever the court sees on paper, Alice," Jared sneered, pushing a fountain pen toward me. "And right now, the papers say you are a terrible mother and a failure. Sign it, before I leak these photos onto social media and completely destroy your professional reputation. Before I put pen to paper on the death warrant for my parental rights, I have a question for you. If you were an accountant and found out your husband wasn't just betraying your heart, but was turning you into a fall guy for severe financial crimes, would you confront him immediately or stay silent to perfect an airtight indictment? Leave a comment. I want to see how far your patience goes." I picked up the pen. My heart was racing, not out of fear of his threats, but from the adrenaline of someone about to flip the entire chessboard. They saw a defeated woman. I saw a financial fraud system waiting to collapse by my hand. Jared couldn't hide his triumphant smirk as the tip of my pen touched the paper. He leaned back in his chair, looking as relaxed as if he'd just shed 1,000-pound weight. "Smart choice, Alice. You wouldn't have had time to care for the kids anyway between all the debt notices I was going to leave you with." He winked at the shark lawyer. The man quickly pulled out another folder, thicker and more menacing. "By the way, Ms. Alice, this is an internal audit report of your company. We've discovered a $1.5 million deficit in the tax reserve fund. If you don't sign this additional waiver accepting full legal responsibility for these accounting errors, we will file a complaint with the financial regulatory authorities immediately. With your reputation, you won't just lose custody. You'll be facing prison for tax fraud." I looked at that $1.5 million figure. That was the exact amount Jared had been quietly withdrawing through wire transfers by forging my signature over the past 2 years. He wanted me to lose my children, my assets, and serve his prison time. This cruelty exceeded any limit I could have imagined. "You've certainly been thorough," I said, my voice so calm it even surprised me. I put the pen down, but not to sign. I drew a small circle around the $1.5 million figure and pushed the folder back toward Jared. "But there's one thing you forgot. In accounting, numbers are just the surface. What really matters is the audit trail." Jared frowned, his smile beginning to fade. "What are you rambling about? The evidence is right there. It's your signature. It's your account." "True, the signature looks just like mine, and the account does belong to my company." I stood up straight, opened my old laptop, and turned the screen toward them. "But Jared, you forgot that I'm the one who set up the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System for the firm. Whenever a transaction over $50,000 is made, the system doesn't just require a signature. It secretly logs the IP address and the GPS location of the device that authorized the command." I typed in a retrieval command. A heat map appeared on the screen. "All 30 wire transfers that make up this $1.5 million deficit were executed from an IP address at Sophia's apartment, your mistress, at times when I was working late at the office. In fact," I pressed another key, "the smart security cameras in her lobby even captured you walking into the elevator with my iPad during those exact hours." Jared's face went from flushed red to deathly pale. The shark lawyer cleared his throat, sliding his chair back slightly as if to distance himself from his client. "And as for these photos," I picked up the one of me drunk and gave it a light shake. "Do you know the biggest mistake amateurs make when staging a scene? It's chronological correlation. This photo was allegedly taken last Friday night. According to my credit card records and the GPS log on my car, I was at the tax department archives that night assisting them with a client's audit. I have a certified work report signed by 3 inspectors." I looked directly at Martha, who was frozen in shock. "Martha, you said I have no time for my children? That's because I had to use that time to clean up the financial trash your son left behind. But from this moment on, I'm done cleaning. I'm going to let you drown in it." I pulled a bright red USB drive from my bag. In here is not just the evidence that exonerates me. It contains the complete tax records of the shell companies Jared established. I spent 6 months analyzing the money flow into those betting sites. Jared, you didn't just evade taxes. You are engaged in cross-border money laundering. For an accountant, finding these loopholes is as easy as taking candy from a baby. Jared slammed the table and stood up, lunging for the USB, but I was too fast and tucked it away. "You think you can threaten me? You'll be implicated too since you own the company. That's why I filed a voluntary disclosure and whistleblower report as a protected witness 2 hours ago." I smiled. A cold smile of someone who had already won. Under the law, an owner who proactively reports and provides evidence of money laundering they didn't directly participate in is granted criminal immunity. As for you, you just signed your own indictment when you pushed that $1.5 million folder toward me. The air in the coffee shop seemed to thin out. Jared looked at me like I was a monster. He couldn't believe his gentle, submissive wife could prepare such a devastating, fatal blow. Game over, Jared. You wanted to blackmail me with custody? Then prepare yourself to see your kids through a prison glass partition for at least the next 10 years. The silence in the coffee shop was no longer the quiet of a late afternoon, but the heavy silence preceding a nuclear blast. Jared stared at me, his eyes bloodshot with rage and humiliation. When all his logic and financial fraud schemes were stripped bare by dry numbers, his primal instincts took over. He no longer cared about the lawyer scrambling to pack up and bail, nor did he mind his mother's senseless babbling. Jared lunged across the table, his massive hands grabbing my collar and hoisting me up. "You think you're so smart, Alice? You think those numbers on a screen can save you when I snap your neck right here?" "Let go of me, Jared," I snapped, though my heart was pounding out of my chest. "Let go? I've lost everything because of you," Jared hissed, his face distorted by madness. He snatched my handbag and hurled it against the wall. The laptop, the treasure containing my 6 months of auditing work, shattered into pieces. He laughed maniacally. "Where's your evidence now? Where's your USB? I'll destroy it all, and then I'll deal with you." He dragged me toward the dark kitchen area of the shop, where the standard security cameras couldn't reach. Martha stood there, making no effort to stop her son. On the contrary, she helped him slam the front door shut and hang the closed sign. "Teach her a lesson, son," she said in a trembling but malicious voice. "She dared to betray this family. She must pay." Jared cornered me against the wall, one hand choking me while the other was raised, ready to deliver a crushing blow. "You thought being an accountant gave you leverage over me? I'm going to make you disappear, and those shell companies will remain a mystery forever." Facing death, I felt no fear. I looked into his eyes with nothing but pity. "Do you really think an accountant would only have one copy, Jared?" I reached into my coat pocket, not for a weapon, but to trigger one final execution command on my smartphone, which was recording live. "Are you familiar with the concept of the cloud?" Just as Jared was about to swing the killing blow, a deafening crash echoed. Not a gunshot, but the sound of shattering glass from the rear. An economic crimes unit along with a rapid response team stormed in through the fire exit. "Police! Drop the victim and put your hands up." Inspector Nguyen, who had stayed up countless nights with me analyzing Jared's dirty books, stepped forward with his weapon drawn. Jared froze, releasing his grip on my throat as his trembling hands went into the air. He looked around, dazed, unable to comprehend what was happening. "Mr. Vance, you are under arrest for assault, making death threats, and specifically, cross-border money laundering involving millions of dollars," Inspector Nguyen declared loudly. "Thank you for that confession just now, via Ms. Alice's recording device. We received the full cloud backup from that shattered laptop the moment you began your attack." I collapsed to the floor, gasping for precious air. I watched Jared being handcuffed, watched Martha wailing hysterically as she was escorted to a patrol car. On the floor, the smashed computer was a testament to his pathetic failure. He thought destroying physical matter could erase guilt. He forgot that in the digital age, once numbers are recorded on a ledger, they exist forever. The physical battle ended with a victory for justice and intellect. Jared looked at me one last time, the aggression gone from his eyes, replaced only by the despair of a man realizing he had lost everything to the wife he once dismissed as someone who just counts other people's money. Jared was pinned face down against the hardwood floor of the deserted Starbucks, right next to the fragments of the MacBook Pro he had just vented his rage upon. Tactical flashlights from the task force swept the room, illuminating the remains of a pathetic blackmail plot. Special Agent Miller from IRSCI, Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation, signaled his team to secure the red USB and the memory chips from the broken computer as federal evidence. "Mr. Vance," Agent Miller said, his voice cold and sharp. "You thought destroying Alice could wipe away the trail? In forensic accounting, we call what she did offsetting analysis. She didn't just back up to iCloud, she set up a dead man switch protocol. If she didn't biometrically authenticate into the system every 24 hours, your entire hidden tax profile and money laundering evidence would automatically be transmitted directly to the U.S. Attorney's Office." I stood up, straightened my blazer, and looked directly at the man I used to call my husband, the one who, moments ago, had triumphantly claimed he owned everything. "Jared, your biggest mistake wasn't disrespecting our marriage, it was disrespecting my CPA license. You think accountants are just bookkeepers? No, we are the gatekeepers of the economy, and numbers never commit perjury before a federal court." I pulled my backup iPhone from a hidden pocket in my dress. The screen displayed a real-time encrypted cash flow chart. "This is why you lost, Jared. You used a smurfing technique, breaking down large cash sums into multiple transactions under $10,000 to avoid CTR, currency transaction report filings. But you forgot the power of Benford's law in auditing. The frequency of the leading digits in your expenditures didn't follow natural mathematical patterns. It bore the digital fingerprint of a setup. It only took me 2 nights to run a Python algorithm to filter out your entire network of Delaware shell companies." Jared's face was now gray as ash. He looked at his lawyer, who was currently being handcuffed, and read his Miranda rights in the corner. "Lawyer, you said it was untraceable." Agent Miller scoffed. "Your attorney is also facing charges under the RICO Act, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. We found direct financial links between his trust account and your crypto transactions. You'll both have plenty of time to discuss traces in federal prison." Martha shrieked in a raspy voice. "You venomous daughter-in-law! You've destroyed this family's American dream." I turned to her, a look as sharp as a razor silencing her instantly. "Your American dream was built on exploitation and fraud. You say I destroyed it? No, I'm just auditing the truth. I've already filed to freeze all assets per court order. From this moment on, every bank account, credit card, and trust fund you have is frozen, pending the IRS investigation." As agents escorted them to black government Ford Explorers, reporters from the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg began to gather outside. Flashbulbs popped incessantly, capturing the collapse of a self-made millionaire who was actually nothing more than a mediocre financial fraudster. Jared looked at me one last time through the car window, his eyes no longer fierce, only filled with utter shock. He had underestimated an American accountant, and the price was his permanent freedom. I turned back to look at the wreckage in the shop. The MacBook was broken, but the numbers inside had completed their mission of delivering justice. I took a small photo of my son out of my pocket and whispered, "Mom won back our future, and this time, it's completely clean." A year after that fateful day, I stood in my new office in Lower Manhattan's financial district, looking out at the Statue of Liberty glowing in the late afternoon sun. The roar of New York City echoed from a distance like a symphony of vibrant life. On my modern glass desk, instead of hidden debt files, lay the transparent report for Alice's Foundation for Financial Justice, the organization I founded to provide legal and financial support to women who are victims of financial fraud in marriage. Jared was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for money laundering, tax fraud, and attempted assault on a witness. Martha did not escape responsibility either. A New York court sentenced her to 3 years of home confinement and millions of dollars in government fines. Their lawyer had his license to practice permanently revoked by the American Bar Association, ABA. Justice in the United States may move slowly through grueling hearings, but when a CPA enters the fray with full evidence, every discrepancy must be paid in full. I won sole legal and physical custody. The Manhattan family court threw out all the staged photos after forensic experts confirmed they were products of deepfakes and intentional staging. My son is now growing up in the peace of a sun-drenched apartment in Brooklyn, no longer having to witness the lies that existed under the model family veneer of the suburbs. Every time I log into the company's online ledger, I no longer see a threat. I see the power of integrity. The accounting profession taught me that while cash flow can be faked, the timeline and digital evidence are things no one can change. I used the very meticulousness and patience, traits Jared once deemed boring and mediocre, to build a steel fortress protecting my child's and my future. I want to say to you, the women quietly contributing in your professional fields, never underestimate yourselves or the power of numbers. In the modern world, financial literacy and data are the strongest defensive weapons. If you are being oppressed, don't scream helplessly. Stay silent, start collecting the data, secure the evidence, and prepare for a comprehensive audit of your life. If this journey to reclaim justice by a quiet CPA has given you courage, hit subscribe and share this video. Together, we will build a community of smart, alert women who never let anyone manipulate their financial destiny. Truth always has its own audit trail, and our mission is to bring it to light. I picked up my fountain pen to sign a contract supporting a financial education project for underprivileged children. As the nib glided across the paper, I felt true freedom. Losing a treacherous husband and a toxic family isn't a loss on the balance sheet of life. It's a necessary write-off to optimize your own happiness. And believe me, peace of mind is the highest form of net profit.